The enlightenment, according to the Buddha, is to attain the ultimate wisdom. The wisdom that we have in this world, that we are being able to engage in this world, the Buddha says, is not the enlightenment that we should be seeking, or not the wisdom that we should be seeking. The Buddha said we should be seeking enlightenment. We should be seeking the wisdom that is to understand the Four Noble Truths. This is the real definition of the enlightenment. The Four Noble Truths that we talked about, the dukkha. The first one is the dukkha, that everything is subject to change, that everything is somehow going towards its deterioration and death. Everything around you. That is called a dukkha, or suffering. Even the feeling of pain, sorrow, lamentation, they will somehow cease to exist. So everything is impermanent, and everything will be deteriorated, and they will disintegrate. This the first one, is dukkha. Second one is you have to understand that this dukkha has its origination. There is a way that it comes about. Why or how does a dukkha comes about? The very short way of explaining it is that because there's craving, so there's suffering. But into the deeper level is to understand the dependent origination, what the Buddha called the dependent origination, or it's called the paticcasamuppada, or in the way of the causality. You have to understand that birth, aging, suffering, and death has its cause. There's a cause for it, and you have to be able to recite this dependent origination, like because there is, for example, we take an example of a very simple thing, that because we see something, let's say we see a book, then we start to like a book, and then we buy a book, we have a craving for that. We craving, we buy the book, and that book we are clinging on to becomes our book. And when that book is deteriorates, cease to exist, we somehow feel pain and sorrow and lamentation. So all these things are, you can test it for yourself, that this feeling of either happiness or sadness, they have its origination, and they will all comes toward the same goal, which is they will cease to exist. And what the Buddha wants to understand is not something external, but internal. That is, our body and our mind come back to these five aggregates again: the form, the perception, the volitional formation, the feeling, and the consciousness. They have their origination. To summarize, it's the craving that leads toward the dukkha, because we crave it. Because of a craving as condition, the existence comes to be. The mind is existing on something. When existence as condition, birth comes to be. When birth as condition, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, all this kind of pain comes to be. So there's causation or causality, or the origination of things, of these things. This is the second noble truth, the origination of suffering. And the third one is cessation of suffering. How suffering, how death can end. You have to understand that there's an end to this suffering as well, and it also come back to this dependent origination. We talk about the origination of suffering, and then this is the cessation of suffering. That is this dependent origination. They have the two, the birth and the death. So let's say, for example, if you like the book, so if you somehow stop the feeling of likeness, you there's this feeling of likeness, you end it. So when there's no likeness, there's no feeling, there'll be no craving. When there's no craving, there'll be no clinging. When there is no clinging, there will be no existence. When there is no existence, there will be no birth. When there is no birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation will not come to be. So that will be the end of suffering. So you have to know that there's an end to it as well. There's the third noble truth, which is the cessation of suffering. And the last one of the noble truth is the way to attain this end of suffering, the way to attain this cessation of suffering. How do you end it? So by practicing the eight noble path, the eightfold path, or the noble eightfold path, the right attitude, the right intention, the right speech, the right livelihood, the right living, the right effort, the right mindfulness, and the right meditation. So these eightfold paths can be summarized into three aspects: the sila, or the precepts, you observe the 5 precepts; samadhi, you practice meditation; and panya, the wisdom, you try to see that everything has the origination and cessation. And from 8 into 3 and into 2 as well is samatha and vipassana, which is the first one is to attain the stableness of your mind by meditation, to practice trying to rest your mind and your body on your breath. And then when it goes, you see the origination and cessation. It leaves your breath and it goes to other feeling. And when you bring it back, you see this origination and cessation. So you develop the stableness of your mind and you see the origination and cessation. So the noble eightfold path can be summarized into 3 and summarized into 2. So these are the 4 noble truths that the Buddha said he enlightens. And the process of enlightenment has 4 levels actually. When people attain the highest state of being, like we talked about first, the Sodaban, that is when he understands the 4 noble truths, and he understands it, these 4 noble truths. But at the last level of the Arahanta, people who will no longer be born, that he is somehow free or liberated, that's his enlightenment at that moment is that he is liberated from clinging on to these 5 aggregates. He no longer clings on to these 5 aggregates anymore. So they are kind of a different level of enlightenment. But it comes back to understand its 4 noble truths. Yes.